Hey folks, it's Ethan Blake, and tonight we dive headfirst into the shallow end of America's brain pool. You won't believe who said what, who got offended, and who decided to go full stupid in public again. Spoiler alert, it's not who you think, it's worse. I've got sarcasm sharp enough to cut through any talking point, and enough caffeine to fuel a congressional filibuster. So sit back, relax, and prepare for a full dose of satire sprinkled with righteous indignation and a side of, did he really just say that? Yes, I did.
There's one critique of the media from the right that I do agree with is the moralizing nature. Like, there is no condescension and moralizing on Fox. It's people on a couch asking questions. Are you worried about how many terrorists are coming in on the border? Do you ever worry about that? Whereas if you turn on MSC, sometimes you're like, it's like birds descending, at sea on a tuna boat going, that's factually incorrect. Incorrect. Not correct. Incorrect. And you're just like, I can't listen to this.
You're all acting like the tariff regime is a tried and true remedy. Oh, of course, this is the medicine that's always prescribed, except the last time it was tried 100 years.
Jon Stewart is once again making headlines, this time for going after MSNBC in a takedown that caught everyone off guard. Known for his relentless satire of Donald Trump, Stewart took an unexpected turn and turned his sharp wit toward the very network that often echoes his own political leanings. But instead of cheering them on, he exposed what many have been whispering for a while: the hypocrisy and one-sidedness in their coverage. Stewart slammed MSNBC for its obsessive fixation on Trump, calling out the network's tendency to sensationalize every detail while ignoring similar issues on their own side. It was a refreshing change of pace from a media figure who's spent years ridiculing conservatives. And that's what makes it so powerful. When someone from within a political bubble dares to challenge the very system they've benefited from, people pay attention. His critique resonated with audiences across the spectrum, and the internet lit up. Viewers praised Stewart for his honesty and courage, while others, particularly on the left, didn't quite know how to respond. We've gathered all the key moments and reactions for you, so stick around. And before we jump into the full breakdown, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more bold moments like this.
First law of Trumpodynamics. Every action is met with a very not equal overreaction.
These pardons are sick. They are offensive. They are un-American.
This is one of the most egregious, despicable acts in American history.
This is textbook authoritarian takeover 101.
Knew I should have taken that class. And not majored in submissive liberal crying 101.
Has officially gone off the rails. So much so that even prominent liberals like Jon Stewart are beginning to sound the alarm. What we're witnessing is no longer rational political disagreement. It's a full-blown media meltdown, driven by lies, scripted outrage, and narratives so distorted they could pass for satire. And at the center of this increasingly unhinged spectacle is MSNBC, a network that seems less focused on journalism and more on its mission to destroy Trump at all costs, all while championing a brand of performative wokeness that alienates even its own base. But here's the plot twist. Jon Stewart, a longtime critic of Trump, has decided he won't be part of the echo chamber anymore. Along with a growing number of liberals disillusioned by their own media, he's calling out the blatant hypocrisy and fear-mongering tactics used to manipulate public opinion. They're not defending Trump. They're defending truth, logic, and integrity in reporting. In an era where tribalism often trumps facts, Stewart's willingness to challenge his own side has turned him into an unexpected voice of reason. It's a rare moment of clarity in a political landscape consumed by noise, and one worth paying attention to.
You want to make America great again, you can't skimp on the details.
President Trump says he's going to reverse Joe Biden's mandate to phase out plastic straws, saying, enjoy your next drink without a straw that disgustingly dissolves in your mouth.
Okay, he's right on this one. He is right on this one. Those straws are f***ing terrible. objectively I'm supposed to have some weird tissue paper dissolve in my mouth just because turtles can't figure out straws aren't food? No. Don't eat the tubes, you stupid turtles. So Trump is making America great again by taking us back to 2016. But obviously, if we're going to make America great again, we can't stop in 2016. We got to keep pushing to that place when America was truly great.
This is exactly what I've been sounding the alarm about. Real unbiased journalism is becoming nearly extinct. It's like finding a diamond in a dumpster fire. Take President Biden's environmental policies, for example. Some of them aren't just flawed, they're downright laughable. These are the kinds of policies that should be thoroughly questioned, openly debated, and yes, even mocked when they cross into the realm of absurdity. But do you think his loyal defenders in the media, especially over at MSNBC or CNN, are willing to apply any scrutiny? Not a chance. You could lay out the failures of Biden's agenda in black and white, and they'd still find a way to spin it as some progressive triumph. It's as if they've developed a reflex to avoid holding the left accountable, no matter how glaring the missteps are. Let's be honest, this isn't journalism anymore. It's political theater with a script and a teleprompter. The line between reporting and public relations has all but disappeared. But here's the good news. More and more Americans are waking up. They're recognizing the bias and they're done being fooled.
If there's one critique of the media from the right that I do agree with is the moralizing nature. Like there is no condescension and moralizing on Fox. It's people on a couch asking questions. Are you worried about how many terrorists are coming in on the border? Do you ever worry about that? Whereas if you turn on MSC sometimes, you're like, it's like birds descending, you know, at sea on a tuna boat going, that's factually incorrect. Incorrect. Not correct. Incorrect. And you're just like, I can't listen to this.
MSNBC seems to have fully embraced an anti-Trump, anti-Republican agenda, one where every word uttered by the former president or his allies is dissected with surgical precision. They analyze every syllable, obsessively hunt for contradictions, and blow even the smallest missteps into headline-making scandals. It's a non-stop barrage of scrutiny. But where was that same level of intensity when Biden took office? The fact-checkers suddenly went silent. His verbal blunders were brushed off as harmless gaffes. Campaign promises that didn't materialize were spun as policy shifts. Instead of holding the administration accountable, MSNBC acted like a PR firm, offering friendly interviews, filtered narratives, and endless deflection. When the network does catch even a faint inconsistency from someone on the right, they don't just report it, they sensationalize it, turning it into a full-blown crisis with round-the-clock coverage. It's less journalism and more partisan performance art. This kind of blatant double standard doesn't just undermine trust, it reveals where their loyalties truly lie. Viewers aren't blind. They're starting to recognize the imbalance. As more Americans wake up to this biased coverage, networks like MSNBC risk losing the credibility they once claimed to stand for.
I think what the media has done over the last 10 years is cry wolf, to the point where they numbed everybody. It was an anesthetic. And it got to where, what was the thing they litigated throughout this campaign? He's a fascist, he's a terrible person. Democracy is on the ballot. Guess what lost at the ballot? If you told us democracy is on the ballot, well, democracy got its ass kicked by a majority vote. So I'm very cautious about when to know, like, yeah, hopefully I won't do it the night after Kristallnacht. I'll get it like, but it's like, when do you put your dog down? Like, it's one of those things, like, you're not quite sure. But I do understand how annoying that is.
Another truth bomb just dropped courtesy of comedian Jon Stewart. And this one hit the media right where it hurts. Because let's face it, when networks like MSNBC and CNN keep sounding the alarm over things that simply aren't true, people eventually tune out. And who can really blame them? It's all manufactured panic, endless outrage, and barely a shred of substance. The facts take a backseat to emotion, and it's becoming painfully obvious. No surprise, their ratings are plummeting. Viewers are sick of being treated like fools, lied to, gaslit, and lectured by so-called journalists who treat partisan bias as sacred doctrine. That's exactly why a growing number of Americans are abandoning legacy media in favor of independent platforms. Platforms that deliver real reporting, without the spin, the smugness, or the narrative manipulation. The flood of misinformation pouring from the corporate media isn't just misleading, it's insulting. Trust has been shattered, and audiences are waking up to the truth. Unless these mainstream outlets reverse course and fast, they're headed for total irrelevance. You can only push propaganda for so long before people begin to see through it. And judging by the shift in viewership, that wake-up call is already well underway.
Inspiring words for us. Mr. President.
History is literally watching us now. So let's preserve this secret place for our time and forever, for the benefit of all humanity. Thank you very, very much.
Maybe this is how we should do the transfer of power. The winner moves into the White House, and the incumbent just wanders off into the jungle so that his nutrients may be returned to the soil.
Much like Bill Maher, Jon Stewart isn't shy about throwing punches at President Biden. And honestly, that's what real comedians are supposed to do. They speak uncomfortable truths, using satire and wit as tools to cut through political spin. Stewart doesn't play favorites, doesn't walk on eggshells, and certainly doesn't bow to the altar of political correctness. He says what needs to be said, no matter which party is in power. And that's exactly what makes his voice so rare and necessary in today's media echo chamber. His blunt, unapologetic takes have earned him a unique position, loved by many, loathed by some, and respected by those who value intellectual honesty. He's not here to score points with the left or the right. He's here to challenge comfortable narratives, call out contradictions, and highlight the hypocrisies mainstream outlets are too scared to touch. Meanwhile, networks like MSNBC and CNN continue to coddle the Biden administration, glossing over every blunder, whether it's a slip of the tongue, forgotten names, or totally off-script moments. Rather than holding power accountable, they bend over backward to explain it away. Stewart, he's not having it. No filter, no spin, just straight talk. And of course, the Democrats didn't take kindly to that. Stewart's criticism didn't go unnoticed. They came after him hard, throwing backlash his way like political confetti. But if history tells us anything, Stewart's not backing down anytime soon.
Quite frankly, the response to the first show last Monday was universally glowing.
Jon Stewart is facing massive backlash from Democrats over his comments about Joe Biden. Oberman tweeted, well, after 9 years away, there's nothing else to say to the both side is fraud Jon Stewart bashing Biden except please make it another 9 years. Christy Jackson tweeted, sorry, but I won't be watching you either.
Okay. Maybe not universal. But that was on Twitter. Everything on Twitter gets a backlash. I've seen Twitter tell labradoodles to go themselves. Labradoodles.
The political left loves to present itself as the noble defender of democracy, free expression, and inclusive dialogue. But the reality? The moment someone dares to color outside their ideological lines, the mask drops, and the silencing begins. It's one of the most glaring double standards in modern politics. While they speak endlessly about tolerance and open-mindedness, that tolerance is often reserved only for those who parrot the same talking points. Challenge the narrative, and suddenly you're no longer a thoughtful dissenter. You're a traitor to the cause. That's exactly why voices like Jon Stewart, once celebrated as a progressive icon, are now being hounded by the very side that once revered him. What changed? Simple. He started asking uncomfortable questions. He called out the absurdities, highlighted the inconsistencies, and dared to shine a spotlight on the hypocrisy within the left's own ranks. And for that, he's been branded a problem. The message from the progressive elite is clear: conform or be cast out. But Stewart isn't interested in playing partisan cheerleader. He's not towing anyone's line. And that's precisely what makes him such a threat to the ideological status quo. He speaks truth to power regardless of the party label. In a time when honesty often comes at the cost of cancellation, Stewart's courage to challenge groupthink is not just refreshing, it's essential. And instead of backing off, he's doubling down. Refusing to be boxed in or bullied, Stewart has aimed his critique squarely at President Biden, holding him accountable with the same fire he's used against Republicans for years. He's proving that integrity isn't about allegiance, it's about consistency. And in today's fractured media world, that's more revolutionary than ever.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
How did Biden do not talking?
Nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing.
Not great. Oh shit, we're back, baby! Abortion! A to the B to the O to the R to the T to the repeal of Roe v. Wade. That is Trump's weakest issue.
Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral.
Did you just immigration abortion?
Jon Stewart has become one of the few liberals brave enough to openly criticize President Biden without blinking. While much of the mainstream left rushed to defend Biden at every turn, no matter how questionable his performance, Stewart chose to step outside the partisan bubble. He mocked Biden's repeated gaffes, contradictory statements, and awkward public appearances with the same sharp wit he once used on Republican targets. Predictably, the backlash was immediate. The Democratic outrage machine roared to life, accusing Stewart of betrayal and of handing ammunition to conservatives. But Stewart didn't back down. He didn't issue a groveling apology. He didn't try to spin his words, because for him, truth trumps tribalism. Unlike many in today's progressive media space, Stewart still believes that comedy isn't about protecting the powerful. It's about holding them accountable. That means telling uncomfortable truths, even when it ruffles feathers on your own side. His willingness to speak plainly, without partisan filters, is what sets him apart from the chorus of political comedians more concerned with approval than honesty. It's risky, yes, but it's also rare. And that's precisely why Stewart's voice continues to matter, because in an age of scripted loyalty, he still dares to be real.
For some reason, there is a persistent fiction within the Democratic Party that if they just hang out with Republicans in the gym or wait out Trump's popularity or give them concessions on a continuing resolution they said would harm the country, that Republicans will finally see the light. The Democrats will be rewarded with productive bipartisanship, or, as they put it,
This fever will break. All this excitement about Donald Trump, it's going to break.
So it is like a cult. The fever will break.
Is this the night the fever will break?
A chance to break the fever.
I believe at some point soon the fever will break.
I think you're going to see the fever break.
President Obama saying, quote, "Now I believe when we're successful in this election that the fever may break."
if someone's been running a fever since the aughts, that's not a fever. That is their default resting temperature.
Here's the simple truth. Until the Democratic Party lets go of its obsession with woke ideology, the so-called Trump fever isn't going anywhere. In fact, it's gaining more momentum with each passing day. The more the left leans into identity politics, censorship, and theatrical virtue signaling, the more everyday Americans feel alienated and drawn toward someone who, at the very least, speaks directly and unapologetically. Trump's supporters aren't blindly loyal. They're responding to a message that, like it or not, feels grounded in common sense. Topics like border security, energy independence, and economic growth resonate because they're real, tangible issues. Trump may be blunt, even abrasive, but in a political landscape where everything is overanalyzed and wrapped in spin, that bluntness feels like clarity. As long as Democrats focus more on fringe social narratives than on solving real problems, they'll continue handing Trump and others like him exactly what they need: a frustrated, fed-up voter base looking for real answers. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about Trump anymore. The more the media pushes bias and the more the left embraces double standards, the more voices like Trump's and even Stewart's start to sound like truth tellers. Until facts take precedence over narrative, until common sense and real accountability return to the forefront of political conversation, the movement toward directness and results will only grow stronger. The establishment can ignore it, mock it, even try to censor it, but they can't stop it. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button and subscribe for more commentary just like this. See you in the next one.